Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us across the fence. I'm Fran Stoddard. Our guest today is a powerhouse. Last year, she was voted the best utility executive in the United States, among many other accolades over time near and far. Mary Powell also stepped down from her position as CEO of Green Mountain Power at the end of last year, after a dozen years as its innovative leader. She led tremendous change in the organization and in how Vermonters think about energy. It is my pleasure to welcome Mary Powell for a chat via Zoom. It's so great to have you here, clean energy leader that you are now.
And it's great to be here with you today.
So you utterly changed the culture of Green Mountain Power with a major move, reorganization, open working spaces, a merger with a larger utility. What was your secret or two to bringing employees along with that kind of intense change?
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, I think the most important thing is, with Green Mountain Power, they still are a service organization. And at the end of the day, everything that inspired the action we were taking was about how we could be more effective for Vermonters. It was all about how we could transform ourselves to lead in a way that our customers, Vermonters, the people we served, were telling us they wanted to move in that direction. And so, again, since it's a company full of Vermonters, serving Vermonters, I think the most important thing to tap into as a part of that transformation, repeated transformation, I would say, because we transformed and then we transformed and then we transformed, was always on the back of love of our customers, obsession with Vermonters, and transforming to an organization that was going to be the most cost-effective and the most environmentally sustainable within the organization, and then in terms of the products and services that we brought Vermonters. So that was the North Star that guided us through the cultural transformation and all of the changes we were able to accomplish.
Well, also, your ideas were innovative and very creative for the corporate world in particular. These were new ideas that you brought to the fore. How much did being a woman in a male-dominated industry help or hinder your leadership goals and style?
Well, I mean, honestly, I think the part that helped, Fran, at the end of the day is I always felt like an outsider. So because I felt like an outsider, it was easy to lean into being an outsider. So by that, I mean that I felt uninhibited to be myself because I knew fundamentally I wasn't going to fit in. I mean, when I became the CEO of Green Mountain Power, I was one of, I think, 4 in the entire United States of America of investor-owned utilities. So there was no way I was going to fit in. Do you know what I mean? And I also didn't come from the background that you typically see in these jobs. So not only was I, from a gender perspective, an outlier, I also was from an educational and an experiential perspective. So I just I lead with my North Star, and I leaned into not worrying about fitting in, but to leading in a way that I thought resonated with the people I worked with and the people that I was hired to serve.
Right, and you come from this creative background. You just reminded me you're in New York City right now. Your dad was an actor, and you followed that, so I'm sure you brought that to the fore as well.
Yes, without a doubt.
So you championed renewals while holding down on rates. That was very important while you were there. How did you overcome that prevailing wisdom that renewables just aren't affordable?
Yeah, well, prevailing wisdom always annoys me, honestly, because I think it tends to be one-dimensional. And so, really our path so much started because, and I also always like to say anything worth doing is hard. Let's be clear, it was not easy. but it was worth doing and it was worth figuring out. And really it started with, we obsessively surveyed Vermonters once I got to Green Mountain because I wanted to know what they wanted. And it was very clear Vermonters wanted a green energy future. And they also didn't want costs to go up. So, at first it was like, oh, isn't that funny? How are we going to do that? And then it became, no, like that's what they want. that's our job to figure that out. And it led to so much of the innovation that is still coming out of that company. I mean, I just saw the other day they announced $3 million worth of savings for all customers because of the storage devices that we got into Vermonters' homes. So it really, what sparked the innovation was what always sparks innovation, which is, a dramatic need that needs to be filled. So we really set about, controlling every cost we could and then embarking on utilizing new energy technologies in the way that could be the most affordable for Vermonters.
Great. And is it easier to pull this kind of change off in Vermont, which is a small rural state where we basically know each other?
Yes, I mean, the good news is everything we did and do could be replicated, and that's the power of Vermont. When we do innovate really cool ideas, they can be scaled up in other states. So that is my hope. But Fran, you are absolutely right. In fact, if I didn't do my career by design, but it worked awesome that I worked for 3 governors in 3.5 years, because one of the things I learned when I was in Montpelier was, oh my gosh, we're so tiny. We can actually get around a table and figure stuff out if we have the will to do that. And so that was really, everything that we accomplished, we could never have accomplished alone. It was about deep collaboration and going and collaborating in spaces that were seen as traditionally unfriendly for utility. So I always like going there first, so because those are the collaborations you really need, are the folks that historically haven't wanted to collaborate with you.
Well, speaking with collaboration, what is our responsibility when it comes to energy? What do you wish people understood better about energy creation and consumption that just still seems stuck a little bit?
Well, I guess the thing that is, I feel like it is catching on. I always felt like my role was to help accelerate a consumer-led revolution to distributed technologies, because in a climate changing world, the reality is we all need storage devices and some degree of self-generation in the next, 10, 20 years. The reality is that's what's going to make our power more reliable. That's what's going to make it more sustainable. So I believe that people and society are moving that way, and climate change is helping those who might have resisted the notion. But at the end of the day, I think the thing I would love Vermonters to know and maybe appreciate the most is we get the best outcome for all Vermonters by figuring out how to do it in an intensely collaborative, sharing economy way. So one of the things I love the most about what we did, Fran, in Vermont and at Green Mountain Power was we really shared energy. We created energy relationships where we're improving your home and your reliability, but we're sharing those energy devices in a way that lowers the cost for the entire grid and all the Vermonters we served. So I think that kind of innovative thinking, that's what I want to see replicated the most around the country.
Yeah, the grid is remarkable. And is now, you mentioned climate change, is the climate crisis driving energy policy and business decisions now in a very real way? Are we at a tipping point there?
I hope so. I believe so. In fact, I've seen tremendous change for many years, but I would say it's really getting accelerated. Unfortunately, it's getting accelerated because, yes, the effects of the climate crisis are hitting people harder now all over the country and all over the world. But yes, particularly in the world of business, I mean, I've been really excited since I left Green Mountain Power to be engaged in now, at least 10 different, clean energy initiatives around the world, around the country. And really, I'm seeing just so much capital is moving in the direction of clean energy. Traditional companies are really wanting to embrace ESG and really transform their operations and how they serve their customers. So it gives me real hope for the future.
So, I know that transportation and heating is still, what's creating the most emissions, and you are, as you say, involved in these 10 new ventures. What's exciting you and surprising you now about what's coming down the pike?
Well, I mean, I think the thing that is surprising me is the amount of capital, honestly, that is moving in this direction. I just don't think people realize. I think between the divestment movements and just the desire for clean energy, you're just seeing, everything from really the big players like, Goldman Sachs and others, just pouring capital into new and emerging technology. So that's always a good sign for the future. So I always say the most exciting thing is the technology we don't even know about yet. but really back in the here and now, I would say storage technologies are just really, really accelerating, in terms of the prices coming down, and the technological improvements are still dramatically advancing. So that then really helps in terms of the transportation market, as well as integration of renewables and serving homes and communities.
Sure, batteries. And so what is your plan for all of your personal energy right now? Many speculate that you might run for political office. Clearly you have the leadership skills, but you've never run for political office. And is that a space where you think you can make significant change? What's next for you?
Fran, what really gets me motivated is helping to solve a problem and stepping in where there's a need. So I have said repeatedly, I absolutely don't rule out the idea of political leadership at some point. What would really move me would be the need, right? So if there is an opening and there is what I would determine as a lack of the talent that we need to help lead and transform. So that's that.
Okay. And you were the first utility
in the meantime, the great thing I've found out, about having all this incredible energy is that energy attracts energy. So I really, when people say, it's so funny because occasionally I bump into somebody and they say, how do you like retirement? I'm like, oh, like, what's that? I'm definitely enjoying a little bit of a different schedule, but I'm involved in so many exciting companies and transformations. So I really do feel like my intense energy and passion is being utilized for sure.
Right, including Spot the Dog, your husband's company, which Oprah noticed, and you helped get involved with that. Well, Mary Powell, we are excited to watch and see where you do go next and where you focus your energy. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, it's been a pleasure, Fran. Great to see you. Thanks so much.
Okay. And thank you for joining us across the fence. I'm Fran Stoddard. Stay well.